Good morning, everyone. I hereby call the board retreat meeting on Monday, April 29th to order. Before we commence, I'll ask our board liaison, Christina Castro, to provide an overview of the board protocols.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the April 29 Board of Governors meeting. To access the meeting agenda, please visit our website at www.ccco.edu and go to the About Us tab drop-down menu. Select Board of Governors, then Meeting Schedule, Minutes, and Agenda, and click on the blue Agenda hyperlink. Members of the public wishing to comment on a specific agenda item or during the public forum must complete and submit a comment card request, which is available at the board liaison table. Following each agenda item, individuals will have the opportunity to address the board in the order in which they were received. If you are calling in, press *9 to raise your hand on Zoom. As a reminder, closed caption is available. Click the CC icon at the bottom of the screen labeled closed caption to read live captioning. Handouts are available at the meeting entrance table. Additional copies are available upon request. Please email castro@ccco.edu for additional details. This concludes my announcements. Would you like me to call the roll?
Yes, please.
Hildegard B. Aguinaldo.
Present.
Adrian C. Brown.
Present.
Casey Chang.
Present.
Amy Costa. Tom Epstein.
Here.
Felicia Escobar Carrillo.
Present.
Nan Gomez Heitzberg. Pamela Haynes.
Here.
Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis. Harry Legrand.
Here.
Paul Medina. Jennifer Perry.
Here.
Bill Rawlings. Mary Salas. Blas Villalobos. Syrian Villavicencio.
Here.
Joseph Williams.
Here.
Quorum is established.
Thank you very much, Christina. It is at this time that I would like to request for Board Member Epstein to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Board Member Epstein, and welcome everyone to the beautiful campus of Santa Monica College. I'd first like to thank President Katharine Jeffries for opening up her beautiful campus for us to have this important board meeting in her space. Thank you very much to her and to her staff who have worked so diligently to prepare us for today. I'd also like to thank our board members for taking their time out of our normally cadenced board meeting schedule to meet here today, to roll up our sleeves on something that is so incredibly important. Today, we have a lot of work in front of us, primarily on climate, generative AI, and workforce that reach deep into the heart and soul of what will be California's future. Though my day job is in corporate America, I can tell you that these three items touch me in that space as well. So the far-reaching nature of what we're about to do today is ever so important. And I look forward to the discussion. Thank you very much to Dr. Christian and her staff for encouraging us to roll up our sleeves and get busy, because that's exactly what we're here to do. And without further ado, Dr. Christian.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Super happy to be here at Santa Monica College. Friend and colleague Katharine Jeffries and the Board of Trustees here. I remember the first conversation that I had with Amy Costa several months ago when she had suggested bringing board members together to do a retreat. There are so many topics that are emerging, as you know, our Vice President, Hildy Aguinaldo, mentioned, that are so relevant and important and moving quickly. So it's an opportunity to get into some of the details. But I want to just do a word on Santa Monica College before we talk about the layout and the discussions for the retreat. Santa Monica College is truly a global campus, attracting over 3,000 international students from more than 110 countries. Santa Monica is a leader in transfer and has transferred more students to UC campuses than any other college in the country. Santa Monica College was founded in 1929 and today is at the intersection of industries that power California's economy and leads in innovation. Its commitment to sustainability, global citizenship, and cutting-edge technology prepares students not just for careers, but for roles as leaders in a rapidly changing world. And under President Jeffries' leadership, the college has flourished, aligning seamlessly with our strategic goals outlined in Vision 2030. She's a passionate advocate for higher education, is courageous, and takes pride in using a student-centered approach to face challenges and opportunities. I would also like to thank Santa Monica College for hosting a Vision 2030 climate event, the Blue Economy and Climate Action Pathways Initiative, on April 19th at the Alta Sea facility in San Pedro. I was supposed to be at that event and had whatever Amy has now and wasn't feeling all that great, but I know that Jeff Clary and Rena Finch were both there. The Blue Economy Initiative, the group, is leveraging strong workforce funding. I'm sure our Vice Chancellor, Anthony Cordova, is happy about this. And they are mobilizing a consortium of 13 LA area community colleges to address existing and emerging workforce needs related to the ocean resource that anchors the region. And I'm super happy that one of the three topics we're going to get into is climate, and this conversation on the blue economy is significant. Now, the three topics were selected because we felt, for example, with generative AI, we're all learning as this technology is evolving in a very fast manner. We have wanted to introduce the board to people in the Chancellor's office and in some cases at the foundation helping us with this work. So the AI work is being led by Craig Hayward at the Chancellor's office, working closely with Don Davies Rougeau from Workforce. Super thrilled. I see our faculty here. Thank you for being here. We have our Academic Senate President. We have FAC, Cheryl Oschenbach, Wendy Brill-Weinkoop participating very closely in this work. Recently, Craig had established an AI council, the Chancellor's AI Council. I see Eric Kuyamagi, who is also on the AI Council. We have our classified staff, both CSEA with Manny Payan and our classified Senate, Deborah Knowles, participating. Our Student Senate is there in full force. And I was really pleased when I approached Keitha Mills from the foundation and asked her if she would be able to provide the resources to get a person to support this work. And Keitha was, yes, absolutely. And we brought on board Claire Fisher, who has been extremely helpful in working in the vendor space. And there is a lot of activity and innovation, whether it is teaching and learning, whether it is student facing. And so this is a conversation even for student affairs with Rebecca Ron O'Shaughnessy and Michelle Smith, where student affairs intersects with technology and AI. We also, I'm pleased that when I spoke to Karen Silverman from the Cantaloupe Group and asked her if she was willing to help us out, she was able to prioritize the California community colleges. And a significant part of the documents that you have received is because of the work of the Cantaloupe Group with our team. And last but not least, we have also brought in West Ed to help with some of the workforce related to AI work as well. So you can see that the Chancellor's office has invested significant resources to get us moving quickly so that at the July board meeting, you board members are going to have a lot of the materials that you're right now looking at drafts. With your feedback, this group will go to work in the next 2 months and bring back reports for you at your July board meeting. In our conversations at the Chancellor's office, we recognized that there was significant capacity building that we needed to do in the space of technology. So under the leadership of our Executive Vice Chancellor, John Hetz, and Vice Chancellor Valerie Lundy Wagner, and Craig Hayward and Michelle Smith, we have started looking at what do we need to do in the Chancellor's office to really build further capacity to be able to engage with AI in an effective manner, because a tool as powerful as AI requires us to have our data organized in a very methodical way, our data represented well, and also we need to ensure data integrity. So John, Valerie, Craig, and Michelle have been putting their heads together and looking at how we can repurpose some of the resources within the Chancellor's office to bring in additional personnel if that is needed, additional consultants if that is needed, and also tapping into talent in the field. Our colleges and districts have talented individuals, talented faculty, administrators, and classified staff. So hoping that we can have a multiplier effect through these partnerships. We have started putting together a structure called the Digital Innovation Center. And this actually, board members, was approved by you in our September budget priorities and legislative priorities. You had approved the concept of making a digital innovation and technology center happen. So let me come to today's retreat. The retreat is going to be focused on human-centered principles. That is a prerequisite for us to have values and principles being foundational in the work that we need to do. I already talked about the data aspect. That is also a prerequisite before we engage with AI. The third area is going to be, how do we engage with technology partners like vendors in order to be able to create a sandbox of exploration and experimentation so that we can learn from it and then select those projects that can be implemented at scale. I'm super pleased, and I was looking around to see if was Bill Rawlings here yet? I don't see Bill Rawlings here yet, but board member Bill Rawlings is providing leadership in this space. Moving to climate. Yes, yes. Thank you, board member Rawlings, for your leadership in working with us, and also the partnership of board member Adrienne Brown. So let me say a word about climate. And so as you all know, when I started as chancellor, this was an area of interest based on my past work. And in looking at the work from the Board of Governors, I immediately found visibly on the website the facilities and sustainability goals that were approved by the Board of Governors. So we were often running in Vision 2030, and super excited that the Foundation for California Community Colleges had already invested in developing a Center for Climate Futures and had Jeff Clary as part of the staff, the senior director, leading that work. So on our staff at the Chancellor's office, tapped on Rena Finch, who is here with us today. Has got a brain for finance and a brain for climate work and a heart for climate work. So we've been working very closely together. In fact, the three of us, I think, meet once every 2 weeks if the meeting doesn't get canceled. And then we're texting each other to make sure we're keeping up with the work that has been moving. So when Vision 2030 was coming together, I had tapped Jeff and started talking about where, we need to develop a framework for our climate work. And some of it was also in my past life as president of Bakersfield College and chancellor at Kern. And what emerged from the conversation were the 4 fields of climate practice that you will be seeing later on in our discussions. That is, focus on our facilities, focus on workforce and curriculum, and focus on community engagement. We created a fourth field because we felt we needed to bring resources to the conversation. So resource development became extremely critical. So as we were preparing for the retreat, initially we started by thinking we should focus on the facilities work, since there is a lot of even external pressure to see how the different segments are really doing when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. How are we managing our waste, our conservation related to energy and water? And so Tom Epstein, who's leading this work from the board, got engaged with it. And we ended up really opening up the discussion. And what I found very exciting was Tom actually went back in the history to 2008 when this board started talking about climate. So you will see more about the history of how this work has evolved. And that made me super, super excited in looking at that sense of focus of taking care of our planet was deeply rooted from a long time ago. So thank you, board member Epstein, for your leadership in this space and partnering with Syrian, Villavicencio in this work. And our last topic is workforce. Now, certainly, you know, if we select the topic of workforce, we can talk about it for an entire week. And I'm sure if Vice Chancellor Cordova gets his way, that's probably what we will do. So we instead wanted to focus the workforce discussion on the infrastructure aspects of what we needed to do. An example of it is credit for prior learning. We do credit for prior learning, but we do it at the margins. And we started by working on credit for prior learning for our veterans. But now we are realizing that when we work with adult learners, those individuals who have been working in the field, you will get a sense of our UDW project, and we got to meet some of the UDW workers. These individuals have work experience, and when we bring them onto a pathway, we must recognize the learning that has happened in their job, in the jobs that they've been in for years. So that is just an example of the work that we need to do in the infrastructure building for workforce and credit for prior learning, non-credit pathways towards that first credential. We are also tackling the student support services aspect of it. Traditionally, student affairs or student services has been, focused on what is financial aid, getting the Pell Grant look like? How do we make sure students get their Pell Grants, get the CCPG? What does counseling look like? Ed advising. Does every student in the California Community College have an ed plan? Well, if they don't, they need to, because we know that sets a momentum towards graduation. Since then, that has expanded to recognizing basic needs. That needs to be a part of the student affairs enterprise. And recently, under Vision 2030, when we have started talking about guided pathways for economic mobility, right then and there, we married student affairs with workforce development. So what I have been signaling both our student affairs team and our workforce team is that enrollment services is going to be extremely critical to moving the economic mobility aspect. Enrollment services using technologies like the AI is the way we've got to do it. Reaching out to students using AI is how we need to be looking at support services. And then when you think about admissions and records is a critical part of it too, because when you see what the governor is pushing out in the cradle to career data systems, the e-transcripts is a critical piece to it, to be able to recognize learning and provide the record, the student record, that the learning equivalent to this course has happened. So what we consider traditional admissions and records or enrollment services is now going to become a significant part of the work we need to do to move the economic mobility agenda for our low-income workers. I'm very grateful to board member Joseph Williams for leading this work and in thinking about how even we can partner with state agencies and workforce investment boards. So thank you, Board Member Williams, and thank you for partnering with Nan Gomez Heitzberg for this session at the retreat. In terms of logistics, we're actually running a little bit early. It's 11:22. The plan was that, Hildy, who's chairing the meeting, will get us into our small groups. And we were supposed to grab lunch and move into small groups. And I think lunch is going to be arriving closer to 12 noon. So I would say that let's go ahead and start the small group discussion. There's wonderful breakfast eats out there. So if you're hungry, grab, coffee, juice, and then go to your small groups. And then maybe we take another break, come down, get lunch, and then go back to our small groups. So small groups, this is a time for you to really dig into the content. And then when we come back, we go into our first big group discussion on generative AI at 2-ish. So agenda is fluid. We might come back sooner. So those of you tuning in online, stay tuned to look at it. But right now, anywhere between 1:30 and 2, we would come back into the big group session. Until then, our board members are going to be retreating in 3 small groups to get into the details on these 3 topics. So with that, I will turn it back to Vice President Aguinaldo.
We're just breaking up in small groups then, right? Yeah. All right. Go forth, everyone. Get some coffee. You'll need it.
And your leads are, I think, for the climate group, Tom Epstein and Rena Finch. You're going to be in the music room. And let's see, for AI, it's Bill Rawlings and Craig Hayward. You're going to be in the green room. And for workforce, it's going to be Joseph Williams and Anthony Cordova. And you're going to be in the large room. The one behind us that you guys were all, hanging out. That's the room that you'll be for workforce. All right. Thank you. Webcast. So the next webcasting will be when we come back to the main room. Is that right? Yep. Andrea and Christina are nodding their heads. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I'm very pleased to report that after 3 very productive discussions at the small group level, we've now fixed all the problems in the community college system. Thank you. We had wonderful small group meetings where we had really dynamic and productive discussions, but we're looking forward to gathering everybody back together for this next segment. Before I proceed and pass it to Chancellor Christian, I just wanted to extend another thank you to Dr. Jeffrey for hosting us at your beautiful campus. Thank you again for providing us a home for these next 2 days. Oh, your microphone.
There we go. I want to express my appreciation to the Board of Governors, to Chancellor Christian for the opportunity to provide the space for you to use today and tomorrow. It's our pleasure and quite a privilege for our college to be engaged with you in this way. At Santa Monica College, we're going to talk to you about some of the things that we do here this evening, so I won't delve into that much right now, but the space that you're in right now is the Performing Arts Center. This space specifically is the Eli and Edith Broad stage for the performing arts. Where we're seated in front of you is the orchestra pit. So when this goes down, the orchestra performs below. So I've never stood on this platform before. So this is a new way for me to see the space used. And so each time we do something that's not a traditional performance, we learn new ways about the flexibility and adaptability features of design when we create any structure in our community colleges. So this is indeed a very, very flexible space, and as you can see in how it accommodates you for your meeting here today. So thank you. We'll talk to you about our new academic programs that are in design and are taking off. I'll tell you more about those tonight. If you have anything you want to address to me in the moment, I'm happy to do that. But in general, thank you. Welcome to the Eli and Edith Broad stage, one of 7 sites of Santa Monica College. And welcome not only on my behalf, but on behalf of the Board of Trustees for Santa Monica College. We're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you again, Dr. Jeffrey. At this time, I'd like to pass it to Dr. Christian.
Wonderful. And thank you, President Jeffries. Your staff have been incredible. We've been shifting and revising what we were going to do and making new requests, and they've been really accommodating each and every request, and the food was delicious. I had the Chipotle chicken sandwich and all of the different salads, so thank you. So we're rolling into our first discussion on generative AI, and happy to see both Craig and Karen here, and I think Board Member Rawlings and Adrian Brown are all ready to go. All right, then I'll just pass it along to you. Take it away.
Okay. Esteemed members of the board, faculty and staff, and other guests, today we delve into the exciting and complex world of generative artificial intelligence, Gen AI, and its potential impacts on the California Community College system. Gen AI tools like large language models and creative image generators are rapidly evolving, presenting a unique blend of opportunities and challenges for our institutions. By embracing Gen AI thoughtfully, we can unlock its potential to empower students, enhance learning, and further our mission of educational equity. This discussion is crucial as we navigate this new frontier in education. Let's explore these opportunities and challenges together and ensure California community colleges remain at the forefront of innovative learning. Every word that I've spoken up until this point was written by the artist formerly known as Bard, which is now Gemini, which is artificial intelligence. What's my true feelings, my human feelings behind this? Sometimes it's overwhelming, but mostly it's exciting. I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of opportunity, but there's also potential for harm, right? There's potential for good and there's potential for harm. And so that's the main thing that we want to make sure that before we embark on this, that we take a look at the human aspect of this. There was a document that was passed out earlier, if you got a chance to grab it, the Human-Centered Principles for Adopting Generative AI, prepared by Craig Hayward in coordination with the CCCCO AI Council. If you look at that document, the draft, which is excellent, I'm sure it's getting close to being polished and done. The human-centered approach includes universal support, managed privacy controls, algorithmic discrimination protections, notice and explanation, and considerations for safety and security. And without these principles in place, we wouldn't be able to launch into this new frontier, as Gemini described it, without doing it thoughtfully, as Gemini said we should. Lastly, I would say, as someone who's been in the California Community College system for over a decade, when I first started, the technological systems that we were using were there since before the internet. They ran on something called COBOL, if you're not familiar with that. So we had to put in a lot of codes in order to do everything that we were doing for the students. When we finally did get an upgraded system, a lot of the faculty were still accustomed, faculty, classified staff, and administrators, I would say, were still used to our old system. And so I felt as if we had bought a Ferrari and we were pushing it down the road. So we don't want to do that with generative AI. So in order to do this more thoughtfully and make sure that all of the professional development is in place, we're starting this conversation now. And as Sonia Christian always says, our time is now. In our breakout session, it was said, we are not behind. We're right on time with this. And so I'm very grateful that we're having this conversation today. And I'll pass it along to Craig Hayward, who will get us going with an activity, a human activity, to help us brainstorm on the principles and practices of generative AI.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Adrienne and Gemini. Yes, so to introduce this very high-tech concept, we're going to have a low-tech interactive activity, which is going to involve 5 steps or stages. So initially, we're going to, Adrienne's already begun this, and I'll conclude setting the context for the work. Then we're going to engage in a brainstorming activity. There will be time for individual work and group work in the brainstorm. Then we will all together work on clustering, a clustering activity of what has been brainstormed, and then a naming of those clusters. As time allows, we may be able to get into resolution of the clusters, which includes discussion and kind of delving into some deeper questions around the clusters that have arisen. The framework of this exercise is an opportunity in this workshop format at this retreat to clarify our thinking about the principles and values that we should adopt as we move into the space of generative AI, of working with generative AI at the California community colleges. It's going to be an opportunity to express your values and principles for how, when, and where to engage with AI in the system and on our campuses. So this work, as part of the context, I want to let you know that working with the AI Council, the values and principles was ranked as the highest priority or top priority for the AI Council. And that, I think, is because until we have come to a shared understanding or consensus around our values and principles for generative AI, it's hard to know exactly when and how we will be deploying generative AI. It's such a powerful and flexible tool. It could be used in any number of ways, but that is not to say that it has to be used in all of the ways that it could be used, right? It needs to be directed by our sense of mission and our values and our principles around AI. So the process that we're going to use today is what's called a consensus workshop. We'll have 30 to 40 minutes to do the work. It's going to be enough time to develop our ideas, but not necessarily to fully resolve them. In other words, this is going to be an initial step in clarifying our principles and values regarding the use of AI in higher education. You will have time to work alone and in groups to brainstorm and cluster ideas, name the major themes of those clusters, and discuss and resolve them. The principles and values that the board develops will guide how we engage with AI, including which areas we explore first, who we partner with, and what we decide not to use AI for. In this workshop, we assume that everyone has wisdom. You do not need to be a technical guru or a specialist in AI to contribute meaningfully to this process. There are no wrong answers, and the whole is going to be greater than the sum of its parts. So the question we will be engaging with is, what principles and values should the board adopt regarding the use of generative AI in the California community colleges? So with that, I'm going to give you about 4 minutes. I'm going to pass out some sticky notes to each of you. Karen, you're going to offer to help? Thank you. Here, I'll give you these.
Are they color coded or?
Oh, and they're not, the colors don't really mean anything. And on these, here, let me. Oh, this is really loud. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm not Oh, thank you. Got to turn that one off first. So let's go ahead and distribute. You should each have about 10 of these. And remember, the question pertains to what values and principles should the California community colleges use or adopt when interacting with generative AI? Does everybody have a set? Okay, and with that, I will give you about 4 minutes. You're going to try to come up with anywhere between 6 to 10 ideas. You can draw from the Human-Centered AI Principles document. You can draw from any other resources that you might have, including your own thoughts. Does anybody need a pen? I have some Sharpies here. Oh, yeah, it should be more than one word, but not more than a sentence.
Craig,
So
could you restate the assignment?
the assignment is to brainstorm 6 to 10 kind of concepts about what our values or principles are around engaging with AI. You can reference the Human-Centered AI document that was part of this morning's materials that were at the entrance to the Broad Theater here. Or you can reference any other resources you might have. And this first stage of brainstorming is just you working on it alone. Next, we're going to partner up and we'll work in groups. Yeah, you can write on those. Try to write one idea per page. And that idea should be more than just one word, but not more than a sentence. You don't want a paragraph. Another thing to avoid is chaining ideas. Each idea should be distinct. So don't write a sentence on one and then continue that thought on a second one. So think of each sheet as an individual concept or idea that stands alone. If you're finding yourself a little bit stumped, you can ask yourself some what if questions. What if you could only have 2 principles to guide the use of AI in the California Community College system? What would the top 2 be? What if you were explaining to a family member why these AI principles were important? Okay, so that's time. Do people feel that you need another minute? Or are you ready? I see a lot of writing still happening. So let's go ahead and give it just one more minute and then we'll wrap up this phase of the workshop. Okay, and now I'd like you to place a star next to your three clearest ideas, the clearest ideas that you expressed on your cards. Pick the top three and put a star next to those three. Okay, once you've completed that, we're going to move into working together in teams and small teams, and three is the right number for this group. So Paul, Harry, and Nan, you'll be one group over here. Siri and Casey and Adrian, you'll be one group over here. Bill, Pam, and Sonia. Hildy, Tom, and Jennifer. Now come together and discuss all of your ideas as a group. And your work now is to select your clearest ideas, the top 10 ideas that you jointly as a group generated. So some of you may have generated the same ideas, that's likely. So pick the clearest expression of that concept or that idea and pick your top 10. And I'll give you 4 or so minutes, 4 or 5 minutes to engage in this phase of the work. Okay, so we're wrapping up. There's a question over here, but get ready to wrap up that discussion. Find your top. I'm going to expand it to your top three. Okay, so if you've got top two, throw that third one in. Okay, so that's a wrap up on that section. And Karen and I are going to come around and collect your top, let's say 2 to 3. If you have 3, give us 3. If you only have top 2, clearest ideas. No, it can't be a package. Each idea is its own concept, unique concept. They don't have to be combined. They just, there we go. That's a great one. Thank you. There we go. Great. Oh, okay. So we have protect privacy and ensure consent. Equity and addressing the digital divide. Under-resourced districts. Differentiate between use of AI and abuse of AI. All right. You got a few? The top 3, your 3 clearest ideas. We'll come back around. We'll come back around. This is just the first round. Perfect. So students must be at table from inception. Eliminate, no, over there's good too. Eliminate equity biases as a prerequisite to using an AI engine. Maintain transparency about use. And from these groups, we have serve student needs above and beyond academic ones. That is a holistic approach. Focus on student preparation for AI world. Ethics. Equitable access for students and districts. Does AI usage by students impede an instructor's academic freedom? So that's a question. Culturally sensitive human approach. And let me ask, are those clear? Is everything clear? Did anyone have any questions about the ones that I've read that sound clear enough? I had a question about this blue one. I'm not sure who wrote this one with a star. It says value, equitable access for students, and then in parentheses, it says districts. Could you,
Some districts are more resourced than others, and so when we're talking about the use of AI, we need to be thinking about students across the system, districts across the system.
Great. That's kind of what I thought you meant. Just wanted to check and make sure. So it's a value, equitable access for students across districts that have different levels of resources. Okay, for this next round, I want each group to volunteer any ideas that are distinct from the ones that are up here. Do you have anything different than what's already on the wall here? And it might be hard for you to read that. Okay, here's a distinct one. Just-in-time communication to students, employees, and industry community. Enhance the work of humans. Anything distinct ideas that aren't already up on the board. Okay. Got a late addition. Yes, Pam. Oh, okay. Let me see. At every stage, participants must reflect diversity in racial, ethnic, gender identity, income, hard to reach served populations. Thank you. Value creativity. And AI is a tool, not a replacement. And one more here. Involve industry, tech partners as intermediaries in AI work. Oh, balancing human considerations, not displacing our workforce. I'll go ahead and put it up here. We're starting to see some pairs of concepts show up here. So AI is a tool, not a replacement. I would pair that with balancing human considerations, not displacing our workforce. Those two seem to go together. So we're going to start moving into the clustering. Develop on-ramps for evolving AI technology. I'll throw that up here. And involve industry tech partners as intermediaries in AI work. Joseph, it should be used to move us to the 4-day work week. Hello. I think people like that idea. Any other distinct ideas that weren't up there already? What do you have, Syrian? Academic integrity and honesty is a value. And Bill. Ensure privacy and security. So in which upper right, protect privacy and ensure consent. Put these together. We're going to start chaining those into pairs. So it may be a little hard for you to read some of these from where you are, but what we'd like to do now is just combine these into clusters or pairs. So if I start here, serve student needs above and beyond academic one's holistic approach, does that pair with any of these other? Does AI usage by students impede an instructor's academic freedom? Not so much there. At every stage, participants must reflect diversity. These two go together, balancing human considerations, not displacing our workforce, and AI is a tool, not a replacement. Focus on student preparation for an AI world. Equitable access for students. This value, would you say that this goes with at every stage, participants must reflect diversity? Equitable access for students and districts? Maybe. Equity and addressing the digital divide, underrepresented districts, equitable access for students and districts. Oh yeah, those definitely go together. Would you say that they go with at every stage, participants must reflect diversity in racial, ethnic, gender identity, income, hard to reach and serve populations? Okay, consensus on that? So we're starting to see some clusters form. A culturally sensitive human approach, maintain transparency, eliminate equity biases as a prerequisite to using an AI engine, differentiate between use and abuse, academic integrity and honesty. Could this pair with does AI usage by students impede an instructor's academic freedom? Those are, I don't know if they're related, maybe adjacent. Protect privacy. How about this one? Just-in-time communication to students, employees, and industry community. Develop on-ramps for evolving AI technology. And enhance the work of humans. I'm going to start putting this with the culturally sensitive human approach. Does maintain transparency go with protect privacy and ensure consent? Maintain transparency about use, ensure privacy and security, and protect privacy and ensure consent. Okay. What about differentiate between use and abuse? Does that go with any of the clusters that we're starting to see emerge? Which one?
Ethics.
With ethics, thank you. Ethics and differentiate between use and abuse. Oh, could you turn on your microphone, Harry?
I would say that one could go with AI as a tool, not a replacement. Ethics.
AI is a tool, not a replacement. That fits with the ethics. Is that, we good with that? Any question on that?
So would you repeat them so I can hear the?
Absolutely. So these two, AI is a tool, not a replacement, and balancing human considerations, not displacing our workforce. And then up here, we have ethics and differentiate between use and abuse. Those are different? Okay.
Because we're talking about a population of folks in terms of displacement
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to something.
I think that's its own concept,
Yes.
not displacing people. Academic integrity and honesty. And does AI usage by students impede an instructor's academic freedom? Do those go together? I guess I've asked that question before. They both relate to academics, but maybe they're different. Academic integrity should go with ethics. Ah, there we go. Thank you. That sounds about right. Okay, at this point, we're about out of time. We're going to have to move on. But if you have any more cards that fit into one of these clusters that are up here that you'd like to contribute, they think should be added to one of these clusters, go ahead and let's collect them now. And then we'll take these back and we'll iterate on this. We'll get the clustering completed and move into the discussion of the meaningfulness of the clusters and how that aligns with the document, the human-centered principles for AI. Forward-thinking curriculum with AI. Stay curious, assume nothing. Is this its own cluster or does it go with its own cluster? Okay. That's a new distinct cluster. You have one? Prioritize data integrity, interoperability with the ERP. Thank you for that. And roll out basic AI literacy, AI 101 to all staff, faculty in California community colleges. integrate ethically the use of AI strategies in classroom experience. Okay. And it looks like we have a cluster. Content is connected to and available to impacted communities. Assurance that AI content providers are diverse and adaptable to societal changes. Okay, great. I think that's probably going to go with this cluster. Okay, with that, we're going to scoot these things off the stage. Oh, we have couple last ads. Thank you. Academic freedom, effective teaching and learning pedagogy, andragogy, professional development, protecting intellectual property. Value and iterative process change is inevitable. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your active participation in this exercise. Really appreciate it. And these great ideas that you've generated. We'll iterate on this and get back to you. Thank you.
Craig, before are we moving to the next section of AI? Because before we move to the next section, I'd like to make a few comments.
Yes. So please do. And then
Okay.
after that, we can move to the next section.
So board members, you had 6 documents that came to you, and one document is labeled Human-Centered Principles. That's a document that, as Craig mentioned, will go through a process. It'll go back to the AI Council. We will bring it back through Consultation Council. And my hope is that we have something finalized by July, which we will roll out to all of our campuses and constituent groups. Now, remember, it's not in stone. So we can always, every 6 months revisit the documents, but I wanted to connect the document with the exercise we went through, because that's going to be something we really roll out to our system. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
All right. Once we get the slide deck up. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bill Rawlings. I'm leading the data integrity and AI portion of this session. Build IT and AI will come. A little play on words there by Craig Hayward, who helped put this together. You have to have a robust IT infrastructure and data infrastructure for AI to be effective. Next slide. So one of our real strengths is that our system of local control ensures that we're staying connected to local needs. But one of the challenges it creates is that it's led to the colleges using a variety of technology platforms that don't use the same standards for recording and storing data, such as Common Course numbering and just a wide variety of others, right? We have built some commonality with things like Canvas. We have Alma for our library system. So this isn't universal. We are getting better at working together and having more shared data and common data definitions and standards. But we've got a long way to go. But setting standards helps prevent bias and hallucinations in the data or in the results caused by poor data, right? So we've got to be very intentional about the data management that we use, that we exercise. And so we have the Common Cloud Data Platform has really just begun, but it's made a lot of progress already. And their work is going to help align a lot of our data definitions, a lot of our standards, and then really explore workflows and how we can take different colleges with different platforms, different ways of using data, different ways of governing data, and getting them on the same page where they're usable as a system. But as we mentioned just now, we have to make sure that humans remain the center of anything that we do with AI. AI should not replace faculty in the classroom. And really, AI outside the classroom should really be used to enhance the work of humans, maximizing their time and their impact that they can have with our students, maximizing the impact they have on our students. Next slide. So 4 steps for the future. Some of these terms get a little specific, and so I wanted to try and address these, and where maybe staff can help enhance some of these answers, I would appreciate that. So we need to establish AI principles, like how and why are we using AI? What are the standards around it? We just had a workshop, an exercise on that. But not just having AI principles, but having a strategy around how we're using data, whether it's for AI or for other purposes. And so data strategy is really a long-term vision for collecting, storing, sharing, and using data. Then we need to develop a data governance framework. Now, this is pretty specific. Those in IT, those in data science will get this term. Data governance is a collection of processes. So this is a framework. This is a guide, right? These are processes followed to ensure data is secure, private, accurate, available, and usable throughout the data lifecycle. So when do you begin using data? When do you collect the data? When do you need to stop using the data for certain purposes, but continue using it for others? So in short, it's the rules, the processes, and the roles in place to govern how data is collected, stored, managed, and used. And then we need to create data services. So how do we use the data in a way that is both agile and flexible for the end use purpose, right? You've got individuals on our campuses, you've got researchers, you've got us as policymakers all trying to use this data. And let's make sure that the services that we are seeking to get from the data are available for us. And then we need to implement and enact robust data management and governance, right? So data management is a little different than data governance. Data management is the actual action of the collecting, organizing, and accessing data to support productivity, efficiency, and decision-making. So here basically what you've got is, here's what we're trying to use the data for. Here's how we're going to make sure that the data we have is sound, that it's secure, that it's private, that we're being transparent about how we're using it, and that it's being used for the life cycle that it was intended for and not beyond. Minimize bias, minimize errors in the outputs that people are getting from it. Make sure the data is clean and good, because garbage in, garbage out. But you might have good data now, but if you're not having a good data governance practice, then you could end up polluting the good data with bad, right? So you need to be very thoughtful, very intentional about building a framework that will maintain the integrity of that data. And one of the reasons why I think this slide is particularly important is that each of our colleges, because we've got different vendors and because our own institutional practices are slightly different, we have different standards around data governance. We have different standards around our data management and how we're using it and what we're using it for and how transparent we're being and how secure the data is. So this particularly to me is important because we need to make sure that our colleges start work on implementing robust data governance frameworks today, making sure that they are training their people today, and really looking at, as we move forward, how are they making sure that the data that they're collecting is the highest quality data, so that then when we start collecting it, start collaborating with it, that then any AI system we might use on it, or maybe any research that we're doing with it, we can have confidence in. And right now, each college may have their own, but as a system, we're not there yet. And having a high level of confidence in the integrity of the data. Individually, we might have confidence in their system, but collectively, the data gets a little muddled. And so we need to really be thoughtful about our data governance practices at each college. Next slide, please. So that leads us to, like, what does it take to be ready? to be, as a system, leading AI, right? We need to be agile in the ways that we work with the data, the way we store data, but we need to make sure that we're supporting and enhancing and really enforcing robust data governance practices at each college, at each institution, at each work site, really. We need to have a system that enables self-service capability so that a person can get to our website and can pull the data they need. Think of our dashboards, but really amped up quite a bit. We need to make sure that our people have the skills to work with AI and work with data the way that we're intending. You know, we're not just talking, hey, like let's teach our staff and our faculty how to use ChatGPT, right? That's a piece, right? But how does the data they collect as they interact with students get put into the system in a way that maintains the security and integrity of the system, right? They need to be trained on that, as well as how that data is used, how you can use generative AI tools, how you can use machine learning to really enhance our support of the students and improve student outcomes. Then we need to make sure that we're setting up the right capabilities, processes, and governance to drive the use of the data, right? It's not just let's have the data, let's make you aware of how to get the data, but how do you actually use and implement the data? Like, where do you use the data and when? What's the appropriate use of that data? And then using key partnerships. We're going to have an exercise on this in a little bit, but we're not going to be able to do this as a system all at once, right? It's going to take people really focusing in. It's going to take tapping into experts that are in the field already. And those are our partnerships. But then identifying demonstration projects where we can generate the most impact for our students and for our colleges. And then really emphasizing, as we go through these learnings, how do we really emphasize collaboration, reusability, and accountability for the data and the AI products? So one college may be doing a small scale demonstration project within their district that might benefit a smaller college that doesn't quite have those capabilities. Let's share those learnings. Let's collaborate. Let's make sure that we're learning the best we can from the field, from the practitioners, from the developers of AI tools in the private and public markets. And next slide. And so that kind of gets us to this piece. It's really, you'll have something similar to this in the strategic technology partnerships and vendor relationships handout that you have with you. But this was a great way. This is by Accenture, where they're able to take some of the potential use cases. They broke them down basically by priority areas, by subject domains, and then talked about like how and when would you use them, right? And so you see a number of examples there that really show, you know, this is a tool that you could use, and you would use this to create something versus this is going to inform you and provide you insights that you might not already have, right? And so with that, I want to lead into, I think it's Karen has an exercise for us on how we might apply some of this knowledge and some of these skills.
Thank you very much. So I want to first of all, thank you for having me back. It's been a real pleasure working with the team and watching this sort of all come together on the AI front. Building off what the whole conversation has been over the last couple of hours, we've talked a little bit about the performance of these tools, these large language models. We've talked in the small group session a little bit about the emergence of smaller models that are built on more curated data. And I think that feeds into what Bill was talking about, that, you know, where the system can build and unlock its own proprietary data to really drive different kinds of insights that are very unique to the system. That's going to be extremely powerful, but have to sit on this foundation that is well understood, well governed, well managed. And I keep coming back to this word integrity because I think it has both sort of moral valence and also structural valence, right? And when we're talking about data governance, that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about capacity building. We're talking about investment and foundations. And in a minute, we're gonna sort of get our hands on a little bit to these tools in a Highwire live demonstration about why that starts to matter and how this can show up in the results. And I know we haven't really had an opportunity to play with the tools themselves, which is what I'm going to try to do today. So one of the things I would like you guys to be thinking about are how can we start to play with the questions that I'm going to introduce to see how they impact what kinds of results we get from different kinds of tools and models. I'm going to focus, I'm going to work mostly with ChatGPT 4, but that's a subscription tool. So that's a $20 a month. If you have that, that's great. It's a fantastic version of the large language model that's out there right now, one of several. We'll talk a little bit about Perplexity, which also is a subscription tool that takes a slightly different approach and is much more reliant and actually produces much better source information for these tools. So if you want to know where your responses and outputs are coming from, Perplexity does a good job of, as do some others, about kind of sourcing the results. But the reality is that most of the kids in school are working with ChatGPT 3.5, right? That's the non-subscription free product. It's not as powerful as the other tools. It's not as integrated as the other tools, and it's not as curated, honestly, and is subject to more of the kinds of hallucinations and more of the kinds of, and you know that that's not my favorite word, but the sort of the category errors that we call hallucinations. And it just has more kind of hair on it, frankly. And I just put that out there because that I know that in the Vision 2030 documents, equity and access and sort of evenness of experience came out in a lot of even the principles you were discussing an hour ago. And so which tools we pick have these sort of subtle impacts, but then so does how we deal with them. So in a brand new effort, we're going to try this. So I'm going to start here. The system works. Can you see? Yes. How can I help you today? This is ChatGPT 4. And one of the things I want to start by doing is asking it to show me the periodic table. So something fairly straightforward. We all sort of know what it should be. And what ChatGPT does for is quite, okay, so it's going to tell me what it is. Okay, now I'm going to say, show me an image. And the description of it is not bad. The image of it, you'll see, is usually pretty colorful. So it's thinking, this is what the little loopy thing means. You'll start to see this Wi-Fi. It's coming, but be thinking about other questions. Okay. I don't think that is a periodic table that anybody would recognize or encourage a chemistry student, right? Okay, so it's engaging and colorful and exciting, but completely wacky, right? And this is a known known. We know what the periodic table ought to look like, right? I do like the ornate background is something. So now I'm going to ask it to so if you didn't know better, you could be led astray. And if you're working with some of the early and sort of free versions of these tools, it's not in ChatGPT 5 because it doesn't have image, but some of the other free tools do have image. You have to know enough to ask follow-up questions on this. And this one, I'm going to say, show me your sources, which is a good question to ask any of these models. This is how, so it's quick, fairly vague and non-specific. Sometimes it'll refer you to the Royal Academy of Chemistry, but it won't give you a link to it because it doesn't have permissions to do that. So you have to take the step to do that. And I point this out in part because one of the things we're asking our students to do when we're using these tools, or we're asking anybody using these tools, but particularly the students, is we're asking them to learn how to use the tool. And it's not enough to know what question to ask. We're going to have to teach them how to interrogate what they get back and make space, time, and kind of a skill set, I think, around interrogating the results that they get back. For comparison, we can, I am going to try to find on this, it's gone to a different loop. If you do this with Perplexity, it will actually show you the actual links to the Royal Academy of Chemistry. It'll show you the NIST website. And so you can link on it. And it's a much more efficient way to source the results that you would get. If I can get back to Perplexity, we will, actually, I think this is the answer if you go to Perplexity, just so you know. So it's right up here, you can go straight to the answers. And that's helpful, obviously, if you have access to it and you've got images over here that trust me, these are more accurate images because they're just linked to the internet, quite honestly. But again, this is a paid tool. This is not an assumed tool unless you're providing that in a classroom. I want to go now back to ChatGPT-4 and show you something else that still feels like magic to me when we get there. Hang on a second. I've got a notice here that I don't want. There we go. So now I'm going to ask it to, without telling it what persona I'm using, I'm just going to ask it, what is the difference between positive psychology, spelled correctly, and CBT? Just going to ask that broad question. And you're going to be amazed at how quickly it can start to generate, I wouldn't say it's well reasoned, but it's pretty well organized content, right? Right? That's what your students have access to on a pretty regular basis. That's what your faculty have access to on a pretty regular basis. So now I'm going to say I'm a first year student at Santa Monica Community College. So I'm giving it a persona. Write an essay about the benefits or the advantages of positive psychology over CBT. And what's interesting is you'll see sort of immediately, doesn't hesitate, but it can start to take positions and persuasion, right? It can start to create argument and context for the question that you asked it. And this is just an important feature to know, and if we could say that we were a psychology PhD student and give it the same prompt and we would get a slightly elevated response. It can understand who we are trying to be and what we're asking it to kind of take on as a filter. I'm a professor. Write 3 quiz questions on the topic. So it'll keep in mind what the topic is. Here's your quiz, potential answers, right? And now I'm going to say, after it's finished with this, because we know it can do it, translate the quiz into Spanish. Right? Wow. Right? Incredibly powerful. But when we go back to the periodic table, right, now we've got to go. So this all looks amazing. And actually it's not bad. But given the lesson we learned with the periodic table, I would, we really have to go back and inspect it, right, for taking what we know and what good looks like, to Bill's point. We have to really dig into what these tools produce. And I'm sorry to say that my Spanish is not good enough to inspect this. I can tell that it's pretty good, but my Spanish, I'm not an expert enough. And this raises a lot of questions about what kind of expertise we need to bring to the utility of these tools and how we want to employ them in an equitable, accessible way. So I'm going to pause for a minute and see if you guys have any questions or prompts that you'd like me to put into this to see if we can evoke either through persona or added detail or context how these tools work or what is sort of on your mind. I see, Pamela.
So I'm sitting here thinking about this, and so you're in the psychology class at Santa Monica College, and every student has access to this and asks very much sort of the same question in preparation for a quiz. And the faculty member gets this back to teaching the class. And so my understanding would be, well, let me frame this a different way. So this is it is an appropriate response. Okay. The question is what should be the response of the faculty member? Because this is just one level. And if we're talking about critical thinking, are there now a series of questions that come out of here to have a deeper level of critical thinking that would benefit students? In other words, if a faculty member really wanted just to sort of get something on the page as this is sort of the basic, I'm gonna give you some kind of pass or whatever. The lesson, is there a lesson relative to now a reorientation of the faculty member teaching the class? What are the other lessons that you need to know relative? This is baseline, but have you thought about this, and this question? Would that be fair? Would it be appropriate? Because I have heard faculty members say, we now get released from this basic part of it. And our job now is to get students really thinking at this next level of what all of this means, because that could end up being a much, much deeper learning process for our students.
So this is a personal answer. I would say that I think this is really the promise of these tools in a lot of ways, right? Is that we can, and it's not just a question of different skill sets around critical thinking. I think it is definitely that, but it's different structures in a way to give space for those skills to emerge, right? And we deal with this in the corporate context a lot too, that most corporate meetings are run on a pretty tight agenda with sort of fixed outcomes that everybody wants to get. And so there's not a lot of time left for inspection and kind of asking if we ask the right question, right? I think in that setting, as well as in the classroom, there's this opportunity, as you say, to do a lot deeper learning, and deciding every class for itself, every professor for his or herself to decide what they're trying to get out of the class, what they're trying to, what learning they want to convey. And it's going to be less about the ability to put words on a page and more about the ability to understand which words those should be on the page, right? And that's true, like I said, in every setting, especially, I think, in education.
To Pam's question, what if you put in the prompt, what competencies am I testing for by using these questions? I just want to see if we can delineate between just writing a quiz, like tasks that are just very discrete and like outcomes oriented, to the macro thinking. Like, what are my key decisions here?
Don't judge my grammar. I just took out dangling participle, but there we go.
That I think is very generic, though, despite those answers are really generic.
Yeah. And there's a concern that if we over rely on these responses, and the tools will get better and better, but there's still going to be some kind of a regression to a mean that is not the excellence that most of us are striving for. Yep.
As of right now, ChatGPT can make you a full comprehensive paper, right? It doesn't have that ability.
It depends on how long. I mean, it can't do a 20,000 word, but it can, but it's going to be gibberish by the end.
Yeah.
Right. Because the way these work, it's still next token prediction. So it's with a lot of inputs, anticipating, essentially predicting what the next most likely response is going to be. So each response, because I haven't graded any of these responses, is built on a guess. So it's guesses upon guesses. And so by the time you get to the end of the product, it tends to trail off a bit in a longer form. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I've experimented with ChatGPT, and I think speaking on behalf of the faculty, it's a challenge, especially when we're talking about academic honesty and integrity. And I think we really do need to rethink, how we assess students' understanding and comprehension, because they could easily pull this information out. But the question is are they actually learning from it, right? And so, and obviously we want to make sure that it is being used in an ethical way. And I know from having conversations with my colleagues and what we're seeing now, right, at the institutional level, are students who may have used, AI. And then again, this whole interplay between I didn't use AI. And so it becomes a he said, she said type of dynamic as to how then do you assess who's actually telling the truth. I think that's just a major concern that a lot of faculty have and are experiencing as we speak, as these technologies, of course, evolve.
Yeah.
And again, part of this, I think, maybe I'm answering my own question, is definitely professional development, teaching and learning, looking at our pedagogy and our andragogy, and ensuring that we're keeping, again, high standards in our classroom, but also utilizing these tools, because these are tools. It's not going to go away. We know that. It's here to stay. They're just going to become more advanced. And so how do we again fulfill that mission is something, again, I'm still trying to wrap my head around. And there are obviously AI detection, and I'm sure you're familiar with, AI detection websites or whatnot to catch this. But again, I don't know how even foolproof that is. So I didn't want to, it's not necessarily a specific question, but clearly, obviously a comment here that I know that many of our faculty members are experiencing. So I don't know if you could speak to any of that or would like to parse any of that.
I like I said, I think you're right. It's an enormous challenge. And you've got sort of you've got the academic integrity piece of it. You've got the sort of the purpose of learning piece of it, and then you've got the skills building piece of it, right? And the not confusing writing with thinking. Those are very different activities. And I think it puts different kinds of pressures on faculty and will for separating those three things and using these tools in different ways, depending on your, what's at stake. Casey, did you? Other comments or reactions or prompts you want to play with?
I don't really have a prompt, but as you all were talking, I felt like I was like, what was the conversation like when the internet was taking flight and folks were talking about, oh, people are going to start cheating, but industry has been using Python and machine learning for like years. We're just getting access to it at this level. And I think my fear is when we focus so much on the output side of what this thing to do, because we're not even talking about the sandbox and all of the back-end programming stuff that we should be teaching students how to use. And when you start thinking about the gig economy and how we can really be helping students design, some projections are like the worker of the future is going to really need 7 streams of income to just keep up. And so, we need to focus a bit of our conversations on how do we help our teaching core understand how to use this as a tool for them, get ahead of the cheating, whatever that is, but then how we're going to help students understand how to use this to assist them. And, there's this thing out there called the Global Youth Skills Toolkit, and it talks about teaching young people how to befriend AI so that they can understand how to manipulate it and use it for themselves. And so I just get nervous when we really focus on the output of this thing versus the skills that, because it's here. Like this thing is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
No, and learning how to ask questions and like elicit from these tools what you really want, I think is a skill set of the future. There's no question. I don't have it with me. There's a quote actually a couple weeks ago when we were all down in here, San Diego, for ASU, there was on my panel, the moderator kicked off with a quote attributed to Socrates, lamenting the spread and democratization of the written word, right, as being very threatening to the quality of thinking, because people could just write stuff down and not have to remember it or think about it deeply anymore. They could just read it and pass it on without thinking. And so I think we're always struggling on some level to incorporate these new technologies, but this is clearly a phase shift that we have to figure out how to work with and guard against and secure and all the things. But wanted you to have a feel for it.
So you said something really important, learning how to ask the question. And for many of our students, myself included, when I was in school, because in my family, you were supposed to speak when spoken to. And so you didn't get to articulate the question. And then when you questioned your parents, it was sometimes disrespectful to do that. So you might have had the question internal. And so I see many of our students not having that skill. And the question can be a very powerful one that leads to the next question. And so it seems to me that's something that we should be encouraging and using any tool toward our advantage, because almost in every one of our fields, especially our scientific and mathematical fields, the question is critical and it gets tested, and then you move on. If that's not the right question, you have to move on to the next question, and then that's iterative, and the next question after that. Because it's in that inquiry through our lives that we grow and that we can excel. So AI may be the prerequisite for us and our students to be asking a lot of questions, not just one.
You triggered a thought. The need to really teach students about digital literacy and information literacy is so much more important now. I think back, Joseph, you asked the question, what did you do at the dawn of the internet? Well, we focused on plagiarism detection, but it was so much more expensive to get things on the internet than it is now. You can build AI engines, fairly quickly, right, with a bunch of junk data, and that's really a much bigger challenge than even when the internet came around, right? And so really educating our students, exposing our students to these tools, really reinforcing those digital skills is going to be critically important, particularly around equity issues, because you're going to have students that are able to afford the better LLMs, right? The better engines, right? And some that are just going to be working off the free stuff. And so the quality of the source material and the training material that those systems were used on is going to be different. And we can help mitigate some of that by teaching students how to be more effective at writing their prompts, how to critically think through what they're asking, why they're asking it, teaching them how to differentiate between this AI tool versus that AI tool and what's going to get them the outcome that they're looking for, so that then they can maximize their learning and have an opportunity for the deeper learning, right? And so starting early, unfortunately, in some cases younger than we have been, I would be a big fan of having students of a certain age not have to deal too much with technology and get out and be a kid, but this is part of now the skill set they're going to need moving forward. And so starting them early, teaching them about information literacy is critically important for us.
And developing these permission structures or manners around asking questions without being told to get to the point, right, or whatever, disincentive that we put in place now. So
I feel like this is interesting, but we're talking about the micro piece, how do the students avail themselves of these particular tools? The broader question I think we have to look at as an educational institution is, what is learning? What is the essential process of learning, and what are the benefits, and how do we move people through that? Because here we're talking about how do you avail yourself of this tool? How do you click on this? How do you click on that? We all know how to use Google. I feel like I use Google to learn because I ask it questions about things I might know about, but am I learning? I don't know. And one of the things that came up at our dinner couple of months ago was they're starting to look at, some of the foundations are trying to look at, do we need to teach students how to write? Which I found downright appalling. But it does get into that broader, like, what is the framework we're inserting this into in terms of our desire for humans to advance? I mean, what is the broader framework that we're putting this in? It's not the click so much, it's not the this, it's the, how do we feel about learning? And how can AI and all this advance the process of learning and our ability to live in the world?
Are we just talking now or?
Pardon me?
Well, I work in K-12 and we're just trying to figure out, well, one of the things I'm figuring out is how do I use this to teach parents how to help their kids at home? Even just understanding, hey, what are the kindergarten standards for California? Put it in ChatGPT and it'll tell you. Ask it, what are some things you can do at home? It'll give you some examples, and just teaching families how to use it to support, their kids at home. I think to get at some of the things that faculty might have to grapple with, if we increase the amount of ethical, coursework and content, people that are going to cheat, they're going to cheat anyway. So, people are it's always going to be somebody who's going to cheat at something. And so, but if we teach ethics and, people that have a conscience are going to, they'll do what for the most part. So I think we just got to say, hey, don't cheat. Just say, hey, don't cheat. Just keep saying it. And the people that won't, and the people that will. So don't be scared of this thing.
That's fun. Are we ready to move on, or any other questions, or? 'Cause that's what I have. There's other sort of exercises we can play with that sort of bring out different dimensions of the tool, but I think the conversation is this is the conversation that families are having, that boardrooms are having, and the classrooms are having. So I think it's, like I said, right on time.
So kind of looping us back around to the beginning of the conversation. So we had a discussion about, like, what does it take to make sure that our data is of a quality that allows us to utilize AI tools effectively. We've seen how some of the AI tools can be good, it can be bad, all hinging on the way that you prompt the data, the type of data that's built on, how it's trained on. And so next we're going to have Craig Hayward walk us through a little exercise on use cases. So we have a document in front of you, strategic technology partnerships and vendor relationships. Included in that is a list of use cases. There's a lot of them there. I think there's 32, I think we discussed. So you can take a moment to look through those, and Craig will get us started with instructions on our workshop.
Thanks very much. So it's later in the afternoon. Everybody's had lunch. So this exercise, or this session, is going to be active. I've lost my mic. There we go. Is going to be an active session that gets you up out of your seat. So take a look at those 32 cases, identify that that document. The descriptions that are in there are going to be important for this next exercise. I'm going to go grab the props and the materials that we need to get that set up, and I'll be right back.
Sure. Yeah.
So just to get you grounded in the document that Craig was referring to, the name of the document is Strategic Technology Partnerships and Vendor Relationships. That document is organized around vendor relationships, right? So there are 4 areas of focus. One is on student support. The second is on teaching and learning, career connections, and administrative infrastructure. So if you're trying to find the number 32 that Craig referred to, and you're like, I'm not seeing the number 32, actually, we can do a little math here. Under student support, there are 8 user cases that he has outlined of how we can use AI tools. And then if you scroll to the next category, teaching and learning, which is on page 4, you'll see again under teaching and learning, there's 1 through 8. So that's where you get your next 8. So that's what adds up. Then career services, you have another 8, and then another 8, totaling up to 32 use cases. Okay. So this document, as we're getting ready for Craig to start the activity, is extremely critical, board members. Coming into the month of July, we are going to be launching a digital innovation center. And within that, we are going to be launching several demonstration projects where we will be inviting vendors to be experimenting with a group of colleges in trying out the tools. So this is sort of getting us ready to launch our demonstration projects. How do we think about partnering with technology vendors to set up demonstration projects that eventually could scale up for all 116 community colleges?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that introduction. And what I'm doing now is I'm passing out to everybody. I'm not passing out, but I am passing out to you 10 shiny stars that you're going to be using to express your level of interest in exploring the 32 different use cases that Bill was just talking about. These are all written on the 2 movable walls behind you. So you can cast your 10 votes, your 10 stars. You could put all 10 on the same one if you want, if that's your absolute favorite, or you can spread them out evenly. And in addition to the 10 stars, you'll get one big jewel, one big gemstone, and you can put that one on your absolute favorite item that you want to explore or investigate. So that's 10 plus 1. That sounds familiar. You have 10 plus 1 votes. Heard that somewhere before. And so with that, feel free to consult because what you'll have on the walls here is really just a 1-line description. You may want to read the fuller description in the full document, and then go ahead and cast your votes. Feel free to, discuss or reference other material or ask questions. This is an interactive session. Bill, you want to lead the way? You ready to vote?
So we're putting stars next to the ones that we want to emphasize, and then those that are extra special, you have your little gemstone to put next to. You can also feel free, because I mentioned before at the end of the slide deck that there are other use cases that are out there that you could think of. You can also add those here as well.
Forgot to mention that. So we have the Post-its. So if you don't see a use case up there that you want, grab a Post-it. I have a marker here. You can just write it down and add it up there and put a star on it. Okay, we're off to the races. Predictive analytics for student success. A star, AI-enabled early alert systems. So what we'll do is we'll take and consolidate your votes for these different use cases and then share that back. We'll have an opportunity to discuss it today, but it'll also become material for further discussion. If you don't see what you're looking for on one movable wall, it could be on the other one. Okay, we'll take another minute or two to allow people time to finish up with their voting, their data dot democracy. Okay, that was terrific. Thank you so much. This is fascinating. So what I'll do is I'll take all this information, collate it, turn it into some graphs and charts and tables and share it back with you. What I can see just by walking around is that predictive analytics for enrollment management is huge. There's a lot of interest in that. That's one of the top vote getters, and it has 2 gemstones as well. When I look at the other big vote getter, I see personalized learning support and personalized learning paths, which frankly are really the same thing. There's the ones under support and ones under instruction or teaching and learning. So if I combine those two, that's at about the same level as predictive enrollment. They're kind of neck and neck, except personalized learning gets 3 gemstones instead of 2, but they're both right at the top. So we'll go back and do a finer grained analysis on this. Thank you very much. Bill, I don't know, did you have any final thoughts on this before we wrap up? Okay, well, then we can kind of bring it home. That was the point of this exercise. Thank you very much.
I'd like to make a few wrap-up comments for board members. So just again, you had 6 documents that came your way. If you set aside the glossary of terms, there are 5 working documents, okay? So we talked about the human-centered principles, very important. We did not discuss in the larger group the teaching and learning document, and that's the one that our faculty are working on. You got a draft. What I liked about the document is there's also an emphasis on information literacy. So you will see that document coming back to you in July. A piece on the data integrity conversation that we had. I want to remind you again, in my opening remarks, I had mentioned that we are really focused on increasing the technology capacity at the Chancellor's office. If you remember, the Common Cloud Data Platform project is a demonstration project in Vision 2030 being led by Craig Hayward. That is kind of sort of connected to the larger system-wide project, which is a common technology platform project being led by John Hetz. And that entire work, we are setting the stage to be able to deploy AI engine within closed systems to ensure that the data is well represented. We have made an ask to the legislature and the governor to support us for this project. It is a very bad fiscal climate for California, but we are hopeful that with a commitment to the cradle to career data system, that our hope is that the governor will still find a way in which to support that work. So that was document number 3. Document number 4 is on workforce, and we did not discuss it in this larger group, but there's a very good document that was put together by Don Davies Rougeau. Take a moment to review that as well. And then finally, the vendor relations document. Now, we are having a focused discussion on the implications of AI for our classified staff. And we will bring that back to you with professional development and what that entails, potentially by the May board meeting as just an information item document, but you'll get the full-fledged one at the July board meeting. So that's all I've got. Craig, any other comments from you before we turn it back to our vice president?
No further comments from me. Thank you.
Okay, so back to you, Vice President Aguinaldo.
Thank you very much. Looks like we are moving then to are we early?
We are.
We're very early.
Yeah.
I mean, does everyone approve of taking a short break? Wonderful. Let's take 15 minutes if that's okay with you. We'll return at 3:45. Thanks all. I'd like to pass it to Member Villavicencio for an introduction. Just kidding.
I would say the climate team.
Sorry to interrupt, but
for it.
we're not doing what's on the agenda. We're doing a separate PowerPoint that we've developed with our breakout group.
Are you leading that?
And Syrian and I together are leading it.
Oh, wonderful.
But I'm going to kick it off.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Member
Sorry,
Epstein.
sorry for the
No
confusion
problem.
there. So
Let's get Rena
so
Finch up
Christina,
as
you're
well.
gonna put up the PowerPoint. Okay, great. So we don't have all the fancy sticky notes and stars to hand out for you. We're actually going with the high tech crowd, unlike the AI crowd who did kind of, basic 50s sort of presentation. And we don't have the highly paid consultants. It's just us, just Syrian and I, we're, playing around on a Friday afternoon that put this together. So anyhow, we went to lower your expectations as much as possible. And here we go. So I'm going to start and I'm going to go through the history of the sustainability work that's been done in the Chancellor's office. Some of which actually preceded my long tenure here, and then Syrian will present kind of what's going on now and where the opportunities are, and then we're going to close with what we hope. And feel free to interrupt at any time, but we also want to close then with what we think the Chancellor's office can be doing going forward, and what questions we need to answer, and we strongly encourage a lot of dialogue around that. So next slide, please. So here's the history. All the way back in 2008, the board approved its first policy, and this is back in the Schwarzenegger era. And that was kind of the first time the state government really stepped up and started to think about climate in a serious way. Then there was a guidebook that was released in 2012 that I'm not sure is still being used today, but it was created more than a decade ago. But more recently, and I think the ones that some of you on the board will remember, is that we adopted a formal policy for the first time. That was in 2017, and that was in association with Governor Brown's sustainability objectives and goals that he had set for the state. Then in 2021, we tried to put some meat on those bones with a framework that set kind of specific goals for 2025, 2035, and 2030 and 2035. And we're going to revisit those because we think they need some updating, even though it was only adopted a couple years ago. And then, when we got our new chancellor, we adopted Vision 2030, which has the 4 fields of climate practice, that you've all seen before, and we're going to talk about some more today. involving facilities, workforce, community engagement, and resource development. Next slide, please. So I'm going to just really quickly go through these. They're kind of a high level description of what each of those goals documents that I talked about. You can see there were some energy efficiency and conservation, in energy independence I think that was part of the national objective, and then there were also just things about what state agencies should do on conservation, buildings, and management. Next slide. This guidebook was created, which frankly I've never seen. I don't know if it's still in use or ever was widely in use. But then in 2019, the policy was something that was carefully developed by the team here and adopted by the board, and that was really the first time when we really started thinking about how to really change the dynamics at the colleges, because not much had been done formally in any kind of process. Next slide. So then in 2021, a lot of you here will remember, we adopted this framework, and we set some goals that need to be revisited, as I mentioned before, and so that's one of the things we hope to do in the next day or so. And this was the first time that I think the board actually worked with the community college community at large on setting these standards, and we had a more inclusive process, I think, than ever before with faculty, staff, and students. Next slide. And then Governor Newsom did his own sustainability policy and for all of state government in 2022, which he called the California Climate Commitment. There was $54 billion included in that. That's been slightly reduced and maybe more reduced, or at least slowed down in its expenditure as a result of the current budget deficit. And the idea was to create jobs, cut air pollution. You can see the list, reduce oil consumption, save money by not having pollution, really set a very, very significant cut in fossil fuel use in buildings and transportation, and take on refinery pollution. Next slide. The goals were for him for carbon neutrality, really eliminate oil drilling in California, except for maybe in Bakersfield in that general area, to create a clean grid, and do even carbon capture and other nature-based solutions involving soils and trees and so forth. Next slide. We had adopted, as part of the, since our new chancellor came on, a climate action sustainability framework that includes a 2025 benchmark, 2030 expansion of that, and then finally to achieve certain goals and then reassess where we go from here. Next one. And it involves all of the things you see there on the slide: greenhouse gas emissions, buildings, energy, water, waste, purchasing, transportation, and even food systems. And this and the idea was that we would align our impact with what the state they were expecting from the whole state. Next slide. These are the 2021 goals that you should have seen in the past. And it covers all those items I just mentioned, and some of these goals will need to be adjusted. Just to give you an example, at the top line there, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 100% by 2035. That is, that would take a miracle. We'd have to all of a sudden find a new source of energy that was cheap and clean. So the state goal is to actually eliminate that by 2045. So we probably are going to need to align our goals with the broader state goals and not try and beat it by 10 years. Then several of the goals talk about reductions by a certain percentage after a benchmark was taken, but we were talking about maybe making those more specific quantifiable goals instead of reductions based on a baseline, because if the baseline is really bad, even making huge improvements on a poor baseline doesn't really mean you're having a lot of progress. So we want to think about by the time we're done tomorrow about maybe readjusting some of those goals to be more quantifiable in terms of actual reductions or increases depending on what we're trying to achieve. You can see that reduce potable water usage by 75%, but it's 75% from what? Consumption materials, same thing. But some of the other ones, the transportation one, for instance, has 100% of new fleet vehicles that are zero emission. That's a quantifiable goal we can shoot for. And the food, 80% of food served meet the real food challenge, which I just learned today doesn't exist anymore. So we're going to have to create a new target for that. So anyhow, that's kind of the framework that we're going to be working from in the next in the several sessions that we have here. Next slide. And then lastly, in terms of the history, the Board of Governors has issued an Energy and Sustainability Awards, and all of you have, I think, been around, or almost all of you, for at least one or more of those awards. The idea was to celebrate success made by individual colleges and districts. And over the years, they've become, they started with kind of very, very simple things like, changing to LED lights. And now, we're looking at rewarding, offering these awards to colleges that are actually putting in solar installations and doing other more significant sustainability projects. And so with that, we'll go to the next slide. I think it's up to Syrian. Oh, no, one more. Sorry. This is the 4 fields of climate practice that Chancellor Christian has helped develop. And these are the 4 key areas that we're working on. I'm sure most of you have seen these before, but they include the sustainable facilities and operations. And so this is about, water, energy use, and so forth. Then workforce, and not just workforce, but also curriculum for our students to get degrees in academic subjects, though, that they can not only participate in kind of the more installation side of climate technology, but also helping to develop it through engineering and so forth. So we really want to educate our students for all the different potential careers in green jobs. And also the colleges working with their communities. The colleges are generally huge employers and have a huge impact on traffic and land development in their communities. And we want to make sure that they're working closely with the communities to make sure that the sustainability improvements that we're seeking coincide with improvements outside the 4 walls of the college. And that we involve the community in decisions that will impact the surrounding areas. So that's, and also in some of our colleges become disaster response centers and that sort of thing. So, and then lastly, this is going to take money. We're going to be talking a little bit about perhaps grabbing some state money, but also philanthropic dollars and other other government grants that have been expanded greatly with the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Act that still have a lot of dollars to flow, and there's a lot of competition for those dollars, and we're hoping that our colleges can be successful in attracting some of that money. And the foundation has done some of that already. And so we'll be talking a little bit about some of the money that has already come in to help the colleges that's gone through the foundation. So I think with that, next slide, it's on to Syrian.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. So my name is Syrian Villavicencio, and I will take this part of the presentation. And as you can see from the slide, I'm going to be summarizing some slides from Chancellor Christian's climate presentation at West LA for Vision 2030, which she gave the fall of 2023. And I'm actually really excited about the ubiquity of the work that our colleges are doing around climate action and climate change. And so next slide, please. So here are some of the initiatives and programs that are in place. And so I'm just going to go real quickly through each one of them. Some of them may be familiar to you, some of them may not be. There's work on residential photovoltaics. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's just a fancy word of saying solar panels. Microgrids, these are the self-contained electrical networks that allow it to generate electricity, particularly if the main grid goes down. These type of grids can come up and provide, again, that needed source of electricity. There's green manufacturing, of course, using recycled materials for the manufacturing process so it can be sustainable when we're creating, again, these commodities. Many of us obviously are familiar with zero emission vehicles, right? Vehicles that run on hybrid electricity, battery electric vehicles, and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. There's programs in our system that are focused on this as well. Building decarbonization, as Tom mentioned, this is part of meeting California's long-term climate goals, and that is essentially reducing the greenhouse emissions in our buildings as well. Groundwater management, we all know we've experienced some droughts, extreme droughts, and we find ourselves with limited supply of water, and so we want to make sure that we are using our water in a much more sustainable way, especially for all of the stakeholders, including our farmers, our scientists, and our normal, average, everyday consumers. And obviously, our colleges are also focused on technical innovation. So really excited what will happen here, especially once we move this work forward and as we elevate this issue. Next slide, please. So if you look at Northern California, and this is not a surprise to hopefully all of you, that if you look at the North counties of our state, they focus on forest and wildfire management. And if you know a little bit of the distinction there, or the difference, forest management is to make sure that our forests are cleared so we don't experience, again, the devastating wildfires that we've seen in several years, and hopefully do we mitigate those effects. And obviously wildfire management is make sure that we're strengthening and hardening the buildings and spaces that are susceptible, of course, to wildfires. Next slide, please. So if you also look at Central California, in particular the Central Valley, you'll see that we have programs that are centered around climate smart agriculture. And so basically, this means that we are using our farmlands the most efficiently way as possible, right? We're trying to make sure that they are productive, ensuring that we have sustainable food supplies while still reducing emissions. I know at my home district at San Joaquin Delta College, we actually have a farm in Manteca, and there are programs that actually teach our students how to do irrigation monitoring for efficient use of our water, which is, of course, is very important. There's new technologies such as cover cropping, and obviously methane and other carbon sequestration efforts that are also being taught. So really, really exciting work to see that our colleges are doing here. I think everyone is also very familiar with wind technology that produce electrical energy at certain parts of the state. Given I'm at the Central Valley, and as I'm driving to the Bay Area, some of you may have passed along 580 and the Altamont Pass. You've seen, again, the turbines there. In fact, at our college, we actually have a program that teaches students how to actually fix those wind turbines as well. And if you look at further down, obviously, the wonderful work that's been done by our chancellor and her leadership in Kern Community College District, they've developed their own direct air capture of carbon dioxide technology, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. And obviously, once you take a look at the Sierra Nevada corridor and the foothills, once again, our colleges are focused on forest and wildfire management there as well. And I want to share this because one of my students who's graduating this year is in a natural science major, but she's actually going to transfer from our community college to Columbia College because they actually have a program on forest and wildfire management. So this should, tell all of us that our Community colleges have distinct programs, particularly in the areas of climate. And of course, streamlining those pathways are going to be very important. And then after she finishes that program at Columbia College, she hopes to transfer to UC Davis. And again, major in environmental science and management there at that institution. Next slide, please. So if you look at where we are here in Los Angeles in Southern California, just 2 weeks ago, there was the inaugural Blue Economy and Climate Action Pathways Conference, or BCAP, that our chancellor spoke about back on April 19th. Collaboration is the first of its kind. It's quite historic, where it brought together a consortia of 13 colleges to really look at the blue economy and ensuring, of course, that our ocean-related labor markets are aligned, again, with both climate action and our environmental justice priorities. There's another wonderful program that many of you may not know about, and that is the lithium production and extraction at the Imperial Valley by the Salton Sea. And many of you may know that lithium is what powers our EV batteries. And so this is a great opportunity for us to extract, again, lithium in the Salton Sea, which, as you know, has also been greatly impacted by climate change. And here is an opportunity for us to again, produce more lithium here in California and be a leader at that. Next slide, please. So the few remaining slides, I really wanted to highlight really some of the few innovative climate action programs that are being developed in our system. For example, the Center for Climate Futures is a partnership with Foundation for California Community Colleges and the Chancellor's Office. And what is it? It is essentially, it's the hub for our system's climate action efforts. And I think it's best for me to read its mission statement because I think it summarizes the important work that they will do. Their mission is to, quote, harness the unique strengths of California's community colleges to foster climate resilience and adaptation by promoting sustainable practices, developing a climate-ready workforce, and collectively engaging communities, unquote. Next slide, please. Here in Los Angeles Community College District, which is led by the West Los Angeles College, established the California Center for Climate Action for Climate Change Education, again, which is a first of its kind program that prepares students to delve into successful careers in clean energy and climate technology industries. And really want to highlight here that this program was established by both state and the federal government. So looking into, again, grants that are available to us and being able to take advantage of those grants at both at the state and federal level is important here. West Los Angeles College can boast that they have the only degree and certificate program in climate change studies in our system, which we're hoping, of course, as this work moves forward, that we can replicate throughout our system and scale up. Next slide, please. I mentioned this prior, but our Chancellor's Home District and Kern Community College District, they established the California Renewable Energy Laboratory, or CREL, and their mission is to, quote, connect industry, governmental agencies, and workers, including disinvested communities and high road training partnerships with the most up-to-date information regarding carbon management technologies, clean energy innovation, and microgrid and energy storage technologies, and clean transportation, including hydrogen fuel and electric vehicle technologies that will shape the regional and statewide economy for decades to come, unquote. That's very aspirational, and I'm grateful for our Chancellor Sonia Christian's leadership. It was an 11-year endeavor to bring CREL to this point, and I think what I found most impressive is the extensive partnerships that was created that focused to helping, of course, our farm workers all the way up to local and state and federal partnerships, as well as philanthropic partnerships as well. So really, really looking forward to see what CREL does here in the future as they uplift this work. Next slide, please. We also have the Forestry Workforce Summit that brought together leaders at the federal and state level to identify and discuss workforce development in forestry and wildfire management. This is, again, where you see an intersection between the work on economic and workforce development and climate change. They came together in UC Davis, and I believe it was Shasta College, where they talked about ways to create more jobs, particularly in this very important sector that protects our infrastructure, that again mitigates the effects of our wildfires. And this was supported by a $21.5 million grant by the U.S. Economic Development Administration. So there is a partnership at the federal level here with the Good Jobs Challenge, where they received, again, this funding. And again, the foundation, I want to thank, again, the Foundation for California Community Colleges as they're taking the lead in this important work. And they're, in fact, bringing, again, a consortium of colleges as well, both in the Sierra Nevada as well as in the Cascades. Next slide, please. The Fresno Merced Future of Food Innovation F3 Coalition. This just was wonderful when I did a little bit of research behind how they received this historic funding. They're led by the Central Valley Community Foundation, and they actually received the largest grant from the U.S. Economic Development Administration as part of the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. Exciting work because they were awarded with $65.1 million to accelerate the work that they're doing to integrate technology and skills in the region's agricultural industry, and again, improving the productivity and quality of farm laborers, farm workers, and providing a sustainable food system for our great state. Also, what's impressive, again, is the partnerships that was developed through this grant and from the work that they did before they received this grant. But partners that include, of course, UC Merced, the California Farm Workers Foundation, regional philanthropy, as well as local governments here. So you could see that there are similarities to some of the programs that are being done in this great work, but it's really makes me proud that this is happening in California's Central Valley, given that 25% of all food come from California's Central Valley, and to see them leading in this work is very heartening to me. Next slide, please. The chancellor, with her leadership, actually just established, during small session, was about 10 days old, right? We've put together, again, this climate action, the chancellor's climate fellows program here that is intended to bring the knowledge base of our system into tackling, of course, climate action issues. And as you can see, there are 4 areas here that it is focused on. So our fellows will focus on community engagement, again, connecting with community partners and industry, which, again, there are some best practices already in place. Creating a framework to develop the community benefits plan for this work, which will hopefully be replicated throughout the state. Climate action in terms of workforce, as I've already mentioned before, this also touches on creating real jobs. And I think this is where our system can play an important role in training this new green workforce that our industries need. Obviously, there's an intersection here with our curriculum and making sure that climate change and climate action is actually being taught to our students, and the importance, of course, of making sure that we're tackling this issue. And so here, the Chancellor's Office is partnering, I'm proud to say, with ASCCC and our faculty to try to embed, again, these topics into our classrooms. And climate action regarding our campus facilities, as Tom mentioned here, as part of our Vision 2030, making sure that we're benchmarking, and obviously, as we elevate this issue, we're meeting, again, our targeted goals. Next slide, please. I think this is the most important slide because this is fairly new. As we know, the governor has passed Proposition 1 that tackled an issue on homelessness and on our unhoused communities. Another set of priorities that he has is climate. And we're excited to report that the Chancellor's Office has worked in partnership with the Governor's Office, and the plan is to put a $6 billion climate bond as early as the November 2024 ballot, which is just around the corner. As Tom discussed, the state has set a goal of getting 60% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2030 and 100% by 2045. So clearly this is going to be a monumental task. The Chancellor's office is working with the Governor's office to potentially steer roughly about 720 million of that $6 billion into our system to essentially drive innovation and technology in this sector. And as I mentioned, we are well positioned as a system to really train this new green workforce. This was in fact underscored by the California Energy Commission, which identified California's community colleges as an important source of workers to help develop the state's nascent offshore and wind industry. In fact, the report makes the following recommendation to, quote, identify immediate and long-term workforce needs, understand diversity gaps, develop targeted and equitable hiring standards, establish training curriculum and programs, fund training and education centers, recruit entry-level as well as experienced workers at the local, tribal, and establish equitable hiring standards and prioritize prevailing wage and union labor. So again, there's a lot of opportunities here in terms of partnerships that we can do. And as you can see, there are, this is the proposed language. Of course, that can be changed, and would like to encourage our board members as we have this discussion here in a few minutes to see what we can do to also, again, elevate this language for the bond. And so at this point, I believe, next slide, please, I can now turn the time over back to Tom to lead us in facilitating a discussion on, again, this wonderful topic, and again, a very existential challenge that we face in global climate change. Thank you.
Thanks, Syrian. And this is where we really want you all to be involved. And I also want to introduce our panelists here. Brenna Finch, of course, you all know, is Vice Chancellor. And from the foundation, Jeff Clary, who has a little empire over there to do climate work. And they are both available to answer questions and also to jump in whenever they feel they have any need to do so, or any that would add wisdom to us. So we have two slides left. One is where can the BOG have impact, and the other is what questions does all this stuff raise? And this is where we really want you to either add or subtract or just voice your opinion on whether or not we, in our breakout session, this is what we came up with as the two, really important interactive things to do today. So the first, and we felt pretty strongly and very important, would be to increase the capacity of the Chancellor's Office. This would mean at a minimum a Vice Chancellor for Sustainability that can help coordinate with all of the various folks out there in college land who are working on these sorts of issues and can interact with Jeff and the foundation operation. We realized that the goals that were adopted in 2021 definitely need to be revised, and so we need to develop a process in order to do those revisions. It involves the affected communities. We need to the BOG, we think, particularly once we're staffed up, can provide technical support to the colleges to implement many of these strategies. The BOG can help raise money both from the government and through philanthropy, and of course that philanthropy generally goes through the foundation. Where colleges are coming up with academic degree programs and workforce certificate programs that the Chancellor's Office can can help develop and accelerate the approval of those so that those courses can be offered to students throughout the system. And then there's the communications side to basically elevate the climate issues among both the general public and also among our own colleges, that this is a priority, that this is not something that can just be ignored because you've got a lot of other pressing issues, but it's something that really is vital, and it's part of the state, a state strategy, state mandate. So that's another area where we can be important. Then of course, advocacy, we talked about the bond. The bond is a tricky one because there's a lot of interested parties and there's a lot of political pressure on not spending more money. And so we'll see how that turns out. But that's one area of advocacy. Then, of course, there's also advocacy around the regular budget and in legislation that could be useful to us as well. And then to create kind of the same infrastructure that you all have done on AI. We think we'd like to see something similar for climate, where there's a network of advisory bodies that include both California community college organizations, as well as involving industry and sustainability experts and other state agencies, the other higher ed segments, and down at the local level in various partnerships involving the private sector, the other public sector, entities, cities, and so forth, the nonprofit world, and other community organizations. So that was our list of what we think the BOG and the Chancellor's Office can contribute, and we'd love to get some input right now on this list before we move on to the final slide.
Okay.
Hi, Pam.
Thank you. So I need a little more foundational. Governor Schwarzenegger, along with the with our House and Senate, had a climate. I mean, it was on air pollution and emissions and all of that. And so is there a baseline? Were we successful in that piece of it? And I guess I'm asking because it kind of fell off. I'm sure we were doing it. I know for the community colleges back then, there were some things that we did around building and all of that, and non-smoking but how successful were we in that first iteration? And because either we're building on it or is this an iteration that we're adding to? And I really don't know the answer to that.
My impression is that there wasn't a whole lot of action taken at the community colleges, but I'm going to put Rena on the spot to see if she knows of anything that happened back then.
Rena Finch.
2008.
Yeah.
Starting.
I'm sorry, that's way before my time here, so I actually don't, but we can look into it and see what's been happening. I mean, I can tell you kind of where districts are generally now with the goals that are in place is it's kind of spotty. We have some districts that are really far ahead and have done a lot of benchmarking and are just really thinking, leading the way in this charge. And then we have other districts that are very under-resourced and just don't have the personnel to assign to start working on this. So there's kind of a wide disparity. So as far as reporting to our office and about their energy usage and to the California Energy Commission, we've got, not full compliance on that. I think as of March, we only had 45 districts that were in full compliance with like just that energy piece of it. But what we're seeing is a lot of beautiful projects blossoming across the state. And so that's why we want to really gel around what our current goals are and keep moving forward.
So then I have a follow-up, because when you look at the governor's sustainability policy, it's very aggressive. It's It's basically setting some markers at 4 million new jobs. Cut air pollution by 60%, reduce state oil consumption by 91%. And so, and then there's a question at the end of this, is this attainable? I mean, it doesn't quite say it that way, but are these realistic goals? And so how do we know that? How do we, are we starting from scratch? I guess is what I'm sort of asking.
I'll take it. I mean, we're certainly not starting from scratch. I mean, the state has been involved in sustainability efforts for quite some time, at least, I mean, all the way back to Arnold, but probably more aggressively under Jerry Brown. But there's a long way to go. And, you know, it may very well be that these goals are not going to be achieved. You know, that's not just because there are a lot of other measurements of state progress and federal progress, frankly, that, the whole world is not exactly hitting the targets right now. But I think California is doing better than most states. And until this, recent budget crisis, we were kind of well on our way to funding it properly. But so we'll see. I mean, but it's still obviously of such urgency that, we need to do whatever we can given the resources that we have.
Well, I'm only asking the question. I am not afraid of stretch or aggressive goals. It's just, it would be nice to sort of, where are we starting relative to some of these things? And where do we need, and how do we get there? Is more kind of my question.
Well, I think let me just, before I get to you, Joseph, the best comparison set might be the other university systems. And according to that article in Cal Matters a few weeks ago, we're way, way behind Cal State and UC. So, we have some real catching up to do. Obviously, we don't have the same level of admissions as they do, but yeah, I mean, I think it's exciting, frankly, for me, that Chancellor Christian has made this such a priority because we have needed that kind of kick in the butt to really make this as high a priority as it ought to be.
Thank you.
Joseph?
Well, first, I think you did a good job. I like the last slide specifically. I got a chance to get connected to this topic. I was on it was a subcommittee of the PUC and the Energy Committee, the Disadvantage Advisory Committee. And language is really important. I wish we can really improve how we describe where our influence is on these topics, because we talk about it in such a broad sense and not really where we actually have influence and have impact. Because if you think about all of the billions of dollars that was spent in construction bond funding over the last couple of elections, and us really, because when we use the language about sustainability and community college, people should be able to visualize what we're saying. And so, I worked at Edison for 2 years, and the topic is so complex that the average person doesn't really know what we're talking about. And then even when we talk about it, it's kind of like, all right, I see the list, the greenhouse gas emissions, buildings, energy, but like, where do we really have influence? And really making sure that the language is simple enough that the average person, faculty member, student, they can see where our contribution could be, other than just the advocacy and the broad specs of talking about it. Because I know specifically in my district, when we do the push for how we're constructing buildings, we're always talking about LEED, and we're always talking about our footprint. We're talking about local hire and our ability to get disadvantaged or marginalized groups onto the jobs. I haven't heard a lot of conversation about curricula. I know on the PUC and others are concerned about these advanced technologies getting into disadvantaged communities, and curriculum is one way that we can get more people in communities like mine trained to actually be one of the workers that work on the buildings. Because a lot of the work that we do, the general contractors are bringing people in from Arizona and other places. And so just if there's ways to make sure that the language, or if there's ways to describe it in a way where you can visualize what's our area or what's our sandbox and how we're working on it, would be, and last thing is that I feel like, the UCs and the CSUs, we're kind of like, we're always, because that's where our students are going, but K-12 is a good partner for us because we have expertise in terms of research and different things that they don't necessarily staff at K-12. And, they're a good, partner for us in this sustainability stuff. And I'm not trying to knock them, but I'm just saying, adding K-12 as a potential partner would be something to think about.
I think that's a great idea. And
Just add in,
Harry,
no,
yeah.
this was part of our discussion earlier in our breakout session, because I had actually raised the same question, that it's such a complex issue that most communities, it's not worth them ask too much. Let's see if I can do it. Is that better? Great. So what I was saying was that I had asked, like, who is the audience, first of all, and then it's kind of jargony. So if you're kind of in the world of it, you know what it's about, but the average person really could care less. And when you talk about electric cars and those kind of things, they're so expensive that the common person doesn't feel like that's really kind of benefiting them. And I think one of the things we discussed was the fact that because the community colleges are in 116 campuses, we actually do have an opportunity to bring that information more localized to the communities and be able to benefit from it. Because I was saying, who's advocating for it? If you don't really understand what it's about, then you're not going to go to the ballot box. You've got other issues on your plate rather than something that seems esoteric in some ways for many people when they're concerned about food. And I think Chancellor Christian Alschke pointed out that some of the stuff the federal government is doing is actually in these community-based grants asking for that kind of engagement at a more localized level. So one of the things we talked about is, do we have the most strategic communication plan? I said, if this happened in 2008 when we first started, and we don't even know where we are or where we went, then we haven't really communicated to ourselves as let alone the constituency about what the need is. And so I think this is something that's not lost on this subcommittee. And it was one of the things that we were just starting to have the conversation with. We have questions that we've kind of have posed that we actually want more input on as well. So I don't know if it was like minds think alike, but that was kind of the first thing that I said sitting in the meeting earlier today.
So I was wondering, we've had sometimes a big push for sustainability, then it seems to drop off a little. Just in my time, it seems like that. Do we have currently an advisory body on sustainability? And if we don't, maybe we should. But then the second piece to that, thinking back to your comment about how we've handled some of the AI work, where we're identifying key industry partners and vendors. And so what resources are we providing out to our districts for sustainability, and how are we supporting their work that they're doing at the local level?
Brenna, do you want to answer what we've got going right now?
Sure. We have a kind of inactive committee, the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee that proposed the Board of Governors' most recent framework and goals. We've moved them to a subcommittee of our Fiscal Affairs Advisory Work Group, but there's been some turnover in the membership. And so we do need to kind of, maybe pull that body back together and elevate them. Some of them have reached out and suggested, we work on more of a regional approach to some of what we're doing. We also work with a few other industry and sustainability experts, state agencies, California Energy Commission, for one. We have the Energy Resource Sustainability Partnership that my facilities climate action team meets with quarterly. They used to be, you might remember CCCIOU, it was California Community Colleges investor-owned utilities, and they funded a climate fellow actually just a couple of years ago for our office, who had started working on benchmarking using the ASHI STARS tool and getting some technical assistance and guidance together. We've also worked really closely with the Community College Facilities Coalition, They have a very large annual convention that brings together many, many industry partners and consultants, along with our facilities folks within community colleges. And we had a great sustainability track just the last fall that really focused on highlighting a lot of our great projects around the state. So there's definitely a lot of interest and energy right now, and we just need to kind of focus that and direct it. And then I'll also just mention that working with some of our other higher ed partners, Jeff and I both attended the California Higher Ed Conference last late fall, early December, and met with UC and CSU folks. We also presented from the community college perspective at their sustainability tracks. We got a chance to learn about a lot of the great things that they're doing. I'll tell you, they have a lot more people and a lot more money to do this. That's why they're further ahead. They've been resourced appropriately to make this work come to fruition.
And Jeff, do you want to add something to this?
Only the fact that the comments that the board has been making really highlight the fact that what community colleges offer in this realm, it is the sustainability piece, which is a part of it, but it's bringing in these other elements about bringing community along, bringing that workforce piece that we're so good at and uniquely qualified to do compared to the other segments. Like, the package is really powerful, and I think these comments are getting at that.
Tom?
Yes.
So when Rana was mentioning the AI committee, a lot of that work is focused on our buildings and our facilities. And so when I took over as chancellor, and since President is here, President Jeffries, I wanted to mention this. I tapped a few presidents on the shoulders and said, you know, could you come together and form sort of an advisory panel to help showcase and raise visibility. And President Jeffries was one of the presidents who took that up and actually hosted and invested significant resources to host the Blue Energy, Blue Economy climate event. The issue in our office is, you know, back to the original question, the first bullet here is, you know, how do we increase the capacity? Do we have someone? So we have regionally good work happening under the leadership of presidents and their teams. So how do we scale it up? And, you know, Craig talked about how can the whole be larger than the sum of its parts. So I think that's where, you know, the next level of the work we're looking at, and, you know, faculty, everyone sort of engaging, full college engagement and at the system level.
Yes, I just want to amplify something that Jeff said. There isn't any organization or institution that's better placed than community colleges for the workforce element of climate change. And I'm just looking at this, thinking about funding. So frequently we think of state funding, but certainly is federal funding and philanthropic funding that will help us accelerate scaling up these programs. And I don't think we always do the best job of saying what we can do and what we're capable of doing and pointing out what we have done. So it's really good to see these workshops or climate discussions being held around the state. And I think we can even do a better job of pointing out to the public in general that we really are the ones that are going to provide the solutions in the workforce for tomorrow's needs.
So these are, you know, after we thought about what our capabilities were, here's the questions that came up, and you know, you can kind of read them, but you know, I think quite obviously the 2035 carbon neutrality goal is not achievable, and so we need to consider that. Just so you know, the state goal for the all of state government is 2045. So, not sure we need to try to lead the pack by a decade on that. And then also there's the issue when you talk about carbon neutrality, you talk about offsets, you know, those are where you buy, you know, you pay for allegedly keeping some forest from being cut down or something. And there's been a lot of research about that seems to show that those offsets are pretty bogus, that they don't really, you know, save much. So that, you know, if we are going to set new goals, we need to talk about whether or not offsets are going to be permissible. We talked a bit about how we can get the district boards involved. You know, I'm not sure how, you know, we have 3 board members here, how engaged they are in climate activities, and are they interested in implementing statewide goals, or how, and what should we be doing to make sure that these folks are engaged. And then, you know, districts, of course, represent very widely disparate geographies. As Syrian, you know, pointed out, there's all different kinds of programs depending on where you live. So how does that, you know, get integrated into one statewide, you know, activity, and how do we help that? How do we facilitate colleges learning from each other? And then of course we want to involve students in as much as possible in all of this, and we know that there's great interest, you know, where they have time. I mean, the young people are very, as they should be, very concerned about the climate, and so we think that there's a you know, a pool of interest there that we need to tap, and you know, there are some student fellowship programs now. There's the California Climate Corps that was just created a year or so ago. And you know, should the colleges be doing more around that kind of thing? And then you know, we talked about facilitating colleges to develop more curriculum and workforce training programs, and what's the best way to do that? How do we encourage it? How do we help them create it, and then evaluate whether or not it's actually achieving what our objectives are? And then we've already talked a little bit today about how colleges work with surrounding communities. There's obviously, you know, since this is a global issue, it's clearly a regional issue as well. And so how do we play a key role in our regions, each college's region, with the businesses and local governments and nonprofit organizations that are relevant to this whole enterprise. And also, of course, intersegmental cooperation with the UCs, CSUs, and I think Joseph made a wise point about the high schools as well, and the K-12. And finally, you know, what are the best ways to raise money and do the communications that's going to help advance all this? So we wanted to ask all of you, if you are there other questions we should be asking, or do you have answers to some of these questions? So wanted to open it up for that.
I think knowing where the projects are would be helpful for us. Like who's done a bond, who still has bond capacity. If you just think from the building side, and then, you know, you can start doing the education early based on, you know, I just thought that all districts were, when they're building for energy efficiency, and like, so I'm hearing that might not be the case. When you said they're not in compliance, are you saying the new buildings that go up are just?
No, let me rephrase that. I'm talking about a report that that districts need to share with the California Energy Commission. And 45 districts were in compliance. The rest had not yet submitted it as of the last report out date. So it's not about their buildings. Overall, our buildings are moving in that direction, partly because, you know, DSA has requirements on what should be included in a new building, right? So as those requirements guide us toward where we want to get, and we have a lot of projects that are LEED certified. There are examples, you know, within the sustainability awards. You know, there are those are some of the projects that are highlighted in the sustainability awards. And I think you were given a handout with a list of winners of the sustainability awards. Okay. So, you know, we do have, and we have examples of like great projects around the state, microgrids in particular. We've got a few great examples of districts that have done very well with microgrids. And then, you know, some other leaders in just like sustainable operations that include a lot of our other benchmarking goals as well. But the question is how to scale it up to everybody. I think that's, that's how do we really get that scaled up for everyone?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think the easy thing, students should be involved. We should find ways to get the students involved. If we can work with the foundation to figure out how to, fund a fellowship program, that would be really exciting to see kind of their engagement in this work. I would really love to see just a better understanding of like the curriculum and certifications that are already out there too, that we might want to, lift up as best practices for other colleges to maybe learn from and adapt to their communities. We got a little bit of a flavor of things that are already happening all over the state with the different colleges. And then I think the fundraising piece, again, working with the foundation to figure out how to tell our story about what we, what unique thing we bring to the table and why, the people who out there who want to fund in this space can consider funding, the foundation, which could then help us really galvanize folks around the state in our various colleges. So, I think they've done a really great job when we've asked them to really focus on a couple of key areas that we're interested. They've done a really great job in doing that. So I'd love to see how we can engage the foundation more.
Thanks, Tom. Can everyone hear me? No? Hello? Okay. Yeah, thanks. Thanks. I just wanted to piggyback on what Felicia mentioned. We can tell our story in making sure we get funding and getting our partners really at all levels to come join us. But going back to the climate bond, if we are going to push this through, and of course this gives us just a limited time. It's April, it's almost May, right? And if we are serious about putting this on the November ballot, we have to make sure that we're telling our stories. To Nan's point, we are a system of 116 community colleges. We are well positioned, and I wish David were here in terms of our advocacy effort. And telling our stories to our electeds is going to be very important, and making sure that we are sort of unified in that same story that we're telling. And so, yeah, this is, I think, definitely a campaign, right, to move forward in doing that, and to get the support that we need, of course, from our elected officials as we also teach the public, because obviously they're the ones who's going to be voting on this, and we all know our budget situation, the challenges that are there. But if we are going to, in a way, persuade them to vote for this bond, we have to be clear as to what our goals are and ultimately how we're going to get there. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
So I'm sorry, with respect to telling the story and also understanding what we even have in existing programs, for example, it's absolutely not a trivial issue. We're actually, right now, we have a couple of elements of a survey out to campuses. The first part of that survey is just censusing people that we have on some kind of list, who they think the best points of contact for climate generally, sustainability, workforce that's relevant to climate, so that we can then follow up with those. The second part of that survey that we have out to all of the CTE deans across the state is specifically about workforce development programs that they think might have relevance to climate. So this is going to be our first try at assembling that information, which I think is essential then to the next piece of what's missing, what could we pursue further funding for, et cetera. But it's absolutely an essential question, and it's pretty hard to get started when you don't have a mailing list.
I want to say something about what Syrian said. Regarding educating people about the role of community colleges in climate and to justify us getting more money out of the climate bond, it's not just working with the governor's office. There's a lot of players at the table on this climate bond. I mean, with all kinds of priorities, and it could be that they're not aware of, say, what we can do for workforce training, for example, and other things. So we need to, I don't know exactly. I don't know if David's around, but I assume he's doing this. But we need to talk to all the players that are seeking their billion from this bond, and see if there's a way that our priorities can somehow be represented in what they're advocating for, and because it's going to be a very tricky balance there. I mean, if it happens at all, we need to have allies inside the climate community, and not just deal directly with the governor's office, I think.
I want to jump in a little bit on the advocacy because the climate bond, the bullet points that you saw on the slide earlier were a huge piece of our advocacy day that we went on and shared with various assembly people and senators. We've also shared that language with the Department of Finance, the LAO, the Assembly, and the Senate. And the foundation is also has some lobbying partners that are bringing that around as well. So we're definitely bringing that message out, and I really appreciate the thought about bringing it into the wider community with the other partners who are advocating. We're not going to let them forget that we feel we have a great reason to get funded for some of this climate bond money if we can make it work.
I have some friends in climate.
All right, well, shoot over their email.
Yeah. They've been circling a bond for quite some time, and they have a million things they want to spend the money on. And so, that's why somehow, and they may not know how we can complement what their priorities are. So that's why I think it's important to do that.
So I'm sorry, I missed part of your comments, Tom, but the part I did hear was that we need more than just our connections with the governor's office. And full disclosure, I serve on the board of Next Gen Policy, of which the executive director is Arnie Soll, and anyone who's been in California State Capitol knows that Arnie served five speakers, and helped to write the Schwarzenegger climate bill. He staffed that. He's been since Willie Brown. And I say that because Next Gen Policy, one of their major issues is digital equity, but also climate. And those are the kind of allies that would, and they want to work with community colleges. They are hands down already there in support of almost every one of the issues that we care about. And so we need to continue to find those kind of allies and advocates to lock arms. And Next Gen Policy is across the state of California. It is focused, if you were to read its mission, around those who are low wealth, low income, students and adults and adult learners. So we do have the allies if we are willing to reach out, because they're definitely willing to reach in. And so I think that's one of the next steps. I say that not just for the Board of Governors, but some of the challenges that I see across the state is our colleges are trying their best, but they are sort of nascent in how they work with communities. And so part of this is, sometimes we have to see an example, and the example ultimately will need to be us statewide to help formulate what that looks like relative to how do you let others in who are trying to do this work.
So anybody else have anything? So it's 5 minutes to 5. Maybe the chancellor wants to wrap it all up.
Well, there's definitely a lot to do in the climate space. I mean, one of the things I know I'm going to move right away is expanding our capacity in an intentional way. So that's going to be definitely a piece of work that we will undertake. The conversation related to the climate bond, I'm feeling a renewed sense of inspiration and feeling that if we put in the time in a coordinated manner, we could not only influence that this bond measure gets on the ballot, that's step one. step two, that it gets passed by the voters. And I think I was hearing that from Syrian loudly. And then the third piece is getting the partners in order to move it and to get the community colleges securing, 750 million is our ask. But our ask has been done with a few partners at the table, and I'm hearing from Tom, who knows this space really well, that it's a crazy world out there with lots of very talented individuals who are committed to taking care of our planet, who probably have influence in Sacramento, having multiple proposals. So even though we feel we've done a good job in connecting with legislature and the governor, maybe it's not sufficient. And we need to be reaching beyond with organizations like NextGen. So I've got like 3 stars on revisiting the climate bond and maybe doubling or tripling down or quadrupling down on our efforts. And I'll be leaning on some of you board members to be thought partners and worker bees in trying to see what work needs to be done. On the other pieces, I talked about increasing the capacity. We will sit down and see how we can create a top-level executive position within the Chancellor's office. We will, in addition to the climate fellows, we've committed a significant amount of money to support the climate fellows. We will take on the student. Heard that loudly and clearly, that students have to be at the table. So we look at a way to fund the student fellowship sooner than later to get that rolling. We'll look at a way to integrate the work of the Chancellor's office more closely with the foundation, so it's not a separate entity, but working to the service of the community colleges in a coordinated way through the Chancellor's office. Certainly partnering with West LA College got $5 million from the state of California. So how do we at the Chancellor's office partner with West LA? The Kern Community College District got $50 million for CREL. So how do we partner more closely with CREL? The Ag Tech program got $65 million, and we were talking in the smaller group, of which 10 to 12 million is on workforce. So how does the Chancellor's office partner and coordinate? And I think, sort of taking that responsibility head on. And I think there's been a mental shift in my mind, what that structure and coordination could look like, moving from a more passive, distributed leadership to a much more coordinated, distributed leadership. So in concluding my comments, I do want to say I'm grateful to Tom in particular for scrapping the original agenda that we proposed to him on how to tackle the climate conversation, to building a more robust agenda, and also to Syrian in 48 hours with an all Saturday seminar that he was involved with. I'm sure he drank lots of coffee and worked in the night to pull together a lot of research to make this conversation substantive. Community engagement is something that's near and dear to my heart in the space of climate in particular, because I think Board Member LeGrand made a real critical point that the jargon, the language is technical. The conversation of climate is extremely technical. And so there needs to be an entity that steps into the vacuum of leadership to really not have community just invited to the table, but help community have the tools to be able to set the table with industry. And there is no other organization other than the California Community Colleges to step into that space and make that community engagement much more a reality at scale. And quite honestly, we haven't scratched the surface of this work. We should have done this a lot sooner, and I'm almost feeling a sense of, saying 10 Hail Marys, but not, jumping on this community engagement piece a lot sooner. But I have a sense of how we can find the resources to be able to do that community engagement piece at scale as well. So with much gratitude for this conversation and being an inspired chancellor with a fabulous team of Rena and Jeff out there, we are going to rally the troops and start making this happen immediately, because our time is now. And with that, I'll turn it over to Vice President Aguinaldo.
Thank you very much to the Chancellor for dropping her very traditional motto that reminds us of the urgency with which we approach our work. So we've reached the end of day one. A special thank you to the folks who had led the collaborative sessions on generative AI and both to climate change for their great presentations and for stimulating such wonderful discussion. Tomorrow, we're going to pick up with workforce and economic development. So keep those thinking hats on. And with that, you're adjourned. Do I gavel out or do I gavel out after tomorrow?
Yeah, just
Okay.
Yay, great meeting.
I'm just going to